attitudes there, you know, and children are keen to explore the issues. But there must have been, you know, if you're realistic about it, I suspect that there must have been people who were glancing out of the curtains and thinking, oh, what's going on there, and that's all too convenient.
Bit convenient, yeah.
And in one of the early chapters, I describe from I was no height until I was around 10, sometimes my mum would say, quick, and grab me by the wrist and bring me in and hide me in a cupboard under the stairs. And she'd say, now be, and she was never angry with me, but she'd just say, now be quiet, just be quiet, don't come out, and I promise you'll not come out, you know. And she'd give a wee wink and all this, right? And over the years I knew, I didn't understand, she never explained why this happened, but whenever it happened, there were strangers in the house. And I later found out that something I'd never considered was that when she first met my father, she was with friends. So if they ever saw her with this black child, they would put two and two together and go, oh, well, hold on. And on one occasion in the book, you know, a woman comes to the house. I walked in and she very quickly sort of cottoned on. And what age are you, son? And what's your name? And she said, oh, Peggy, who's this? And my mum said, oh, that's our Timothy. Oh, have you not met him yet? Knowing full well that this is one of the women she'd been hiding me from.
Your poor mother, it must have been a lifetime of concealment.
But she did eventually tell you. You were 19 at the time. How did she tell you?
It was 12th of July, 1985, and 12th of July in the north is a significant enough date. And so as a nationalist, we all went to the seaside, and our particular family, we went up to my uncle's holiday home in Cushendall. But the next day, 1985, was significant for a bigger reason.
It was
the day of the Live Aid, Band Aid and all of that, and Bob Geldof. And so at about 2 in the morning on the day of Live Aid, my mum said, Tim, I have something to tell you, and I'm your real mum, and you're not adopted, you know. And we were all sitting having a drink, and what? Oh, sorry, what was that, you know? And she told me, and she said, oh, you know, I really am your mum. You're not adopted, and I guess that's a reversal on what has happened right across this land over the years, where lots of people have been taken to one side and said, a bit of news for you, you're adopted, you know. and so in my case, it was like something very positive and life-affirming that this woman who I was very, very close to and loved very much, she wasn't pushing me away. I suppose if you're told you're adopted, then you think, well, this has all been a lie, and who am I really? And you're an imposter. Who's my mum?
Did she tell anybody else in the family, or just you?
No, and even as she told me that night, it was a family get-together in a room this size, and she was saying, don't be telling anyone. And I'm going, what? What do you mean, don't be telling?
And did she
What's going on, Mum? And our brothers were there, and I said, do they not know this? And she said, no, of course they don't, of course they don't. And so she told me the story about the fake adoption and being put in the home, and I learnt all that on the day of Live Aid.
When you were told this?
Well, I started crying, but and I'd be a reasonably emotional guy in some ways, but so I was getting upset, and she was sitting there, and she was sort of nursing her G&T, and she always held the bottom of the glass and would run her hand across the top of it, and she said, are you annoyed? And all, I was going, no, and then she said, but you're crying, why are you crying? And I said, because it's a fantastic story, you know.
Well, she encouraged you to look for your father in Ghana, didn't she? And you did do that, and you tracked him down.
Yeah, at the time, and in the mid-80s and all, and on the night she told me, she said, he's a doctor and I want you to do well. And at that stage, I used to be a hairdresser, I was starting to study. And I said, it's important now you do well in college and at university, and your father's a doctor, and always don't lose sight of that. And she was very tough on me. I was the only one that went to university, and a lot of it was because she said to me, you're going back to night school and you're getting better results. And she didn't let me use slang, she didn't let me curse, and all these sorts of things, whereas my brothers are a bit more rough and ready than I was, you know.
So it was after your mum's death where I think it was her wish that you found your dad.
Yeah.
Where did you find him?
I found him on the continent of Africa, and I did a search in Belfast, and I thought this is going to be an epic story, and it's going to involve, you know, dusty old documents and, you know, sort of like something you'd see in a Hollywood movie. But in actual fact, because of the internet, I just typed my middle name is Ekwe, and that's my father's surname. So I just typed that into the computers, and 5 results came up, and it was 5 children, and they all had the same parents, and they lived at the address that my mum told me that they used to live at. And that was I thought, my goodness, I've now got 3 sisters. I've never had sisters before. I tracked them down to London, and eventually through them, I tracked my father down to Africa, and I flew out to Ghana 3 years ago. And
when your mum fell pregnant, was he aware that she was pregnant for him?
Oh, yes, definitely. They had conversations about it, and he, as a doctor, he was distant from it. She said, "I'm pregnant," and his response was, "Oh, well, I'm married," and that was a little detail that he hadn't told her. But it didn't really matter because my mum,
she was married.
Anyway.
She was married, so she was having an affair.
So go on anyway. What happened then when you met him?
Well, he was, a lot of it was done over the phone and long range from Belfast, and he was promising to phone and wouldn't, But I also, the BBC got involved, and they flew me out, and they were making a documentary, and I was saying to them, look, if you're expecting any sort of Cilla Black surprise, and big emotional hugs, I'm not sure this is the man for this, And he's extremely conservative. Ghana's a British colony. He brought into, while he was in Belfast, brought into British culture in a big way, and was actually, still is, a Freemason. And he's the chairman of the Rotary Club in Ghana, And I'm going, you're very conservative. I have a very different political background from you, and he was very interested to hear about my life and growing up and the troubles and the impact that I had on our family. But when I asked him, it sort of became the touchstone question. And when I said to him, "How did you meet my mum?" he would never answer it. He actually said, "That's very private information." And I said, well, look, every child
it's the reason why you're here.
Yeah, every child gets the chance to say to their parents, and it becomes family folklore. How did you two meet? And it's always usually a bit of fun. And I said, what? I said, you do realise I know everything about this story, so I just want to see if your story marries up, for want of a better word, with my mum's. And he said, look, that's private. That'll all come out in the fullness of time. And I said, well, you're 70. You've had 40 years, and you've had 7 or 8 months from I initially contacted you. How much time do you need? And he still hasn't answered that question, and he won't answer questions around those issues.
Has he told his wife about you?
Not to my knowledge.
But his children are aware of you?
His children are aware, but when I went out to Africa, he came to my hotel and met me and said, I don't want to tell my wife, I don't want her to know.
Well, you've written a book. Thanks to the internet, the world is becoming a much smaller place. He's an eminent medic. So the wife is going to find out about this.
I suspect the world's closing in on him. And
everyone knows.
Hopefully he's done the right thing and told her himself before she finds out on a website or on a news. Because I've been on the BBC World Service broadcast the story, but he's a very conservative man, and his writ is law in the family. The children don't challenge him. They're also very wealthy, and I think they're worried that I'm after their money, and that's the last thing.
No, you're not. No, and you've made that very, very clear too. The book is an incredible read.
The book is fascinating. Not only, is the whole story about the adoption, but also the fact that you served 5 years in prison in the maze in Belfast. For being a Republican, helping the IRA.
I was caught with IRA weapons. Just to make it clear, it wasn't for personal gain or anything.
But it is an incredible read. While you were there in the maze, you describe it as probably the most politically correct place you could have been in at that time. If you want more details on it, you've got to buy the book. It really is an incredible read from start to finish.
Thank you.
And describes life in Belfast during that time. And
I think you'll have to make a movie. To be honest,
well,
there's just so much
we're
in
in
it.
negotiations. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Tim, thanks so much for coming
I wish we had more time with you this morning, but thank you
It's been a pleasure.
That.
Thanks for bringing me onto the show.
When the film's coming out, we'll have to have him back.
Yeah.